G'day and welcome. So in this video we've got a bit of downtime with the three cars. So I thought I'd pull out a couple of old toys. These are based on Tamiya Thundershots, and you can see they're absolutely knackered. I've got a couple of good ones inside, but I think we'll pull these apart and see what needs to be done to fix them up. Hope you enjoy. We've got about 4 days forecast of rain and crummy weather. And so I'm not doing cars or motorcycles and that. Let's find something different to do. G'day and welcome, and I don't really know where I'm going to start with this because normally on this channel I'm doing, cars or motorcycles. Haven't done one of those in a while, but normally it's fairly busy like that. So presently I've got a bunch of stuff, the plate is for the Plymouth. I'm doing the body mounts on that. I've got XC Falcon rear guards in Adelaide, which I haven't got back yet, and I've got an EJ Holden engine block at an engine reconditioner. It's just had the machining finished, and it's turned out very well. Now, this story begins back in about 1988, 87, I think, when I was at Target. I was there for a short time, and I worked in the receiving dock, pulling pallets off trucks and this sort of stuff, in between mechanicking. And there was a bunch of Tamiya RC cars that they started to stock, and there was a lot of hype around them. They do 80 kilometres an hour and all this stuff, which they clearly didn't. I mean, you'd be lucky to get 30 or 40 out of one unless you hotted it up. But then I went to stay in England for a while, and I did the whole, what do you call it, Contiki tour, and stayed up in Lytham at my grandmother's place for quite a while afterwards. And I remember it was a beautiful 6-bedroom, massive place. It was on the sea. 257 Inner Promenade, Fairhaven was the address. 1AZ, what was the postcode? I can't remember the postcode. FY8 1AZ was the postcode. And it's part of the Fylde. It's in the sort of the Fylde council area. And it was right opposite Fairhaven Lake, and beyond that was the Rebel Estuary. And you used to be able to look at and see the sea. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. And my auntie had a Mark 1 Golf in the garage, and that was a spare car for people that came to stay. And I used to drive that around. And you would go, down the prom onto Clifton Drive and keep going, and you got to Blackpool. And when I got to Blackpool, when you get there was a place called the Hounds Hill Shopping Centre, I think. And in there was a shop called Beatty's. And I'll show you my bag of Beatty's stuff shortly. But in the meantime, I was talking to the XA Coupe guy, Graham, and he's got a way of banging on about something, and you end up sort of reflecting on it and thinking, And he was talking about getting one of these things, and I've got a bunch of old stuff. I've got a big container of bits and pieces, because if there's one thing I can't do, it's drive an RC car when I was young. There's always been a bit of a stigma with it. I didn't like, I was an adult and I thought it was more a toy thing. But they were a very popular hobby back then when I was about 19 or 20. And there was a place in Moncrief Road in Nuttawading, a roller skating rink. And Moncrief Road was known to me because there was Performance Warehouse down there, and they were very reasonable for, car parts and a lot of engine stuff from the United States. And so I used to be down there quite frequently anyway. There was this roller skating rink, and they had people racing these cars in a big circle, and the lower end of the stuff was Tamiya stuff. There were Mugen Bulldogs. Kyosho Optimas were very popular, and a friend of mine had one. There were 2 levels of those. I can't remember what they're called. There was a sort of a hotted up one and a standard one. And the thing that everyone wanted to beat at the time was the Shoemaker Cat. No one could touch those things. They used to win everything. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you up here. There's a couple of old cars that are real bangers. They're terrible. I'll warn you about that now. They haven't been touched in at least 15 years. I put them together with bits because I was such a bad driver, and I used to prang these cars all the time and break stuff. I had to buy new stuff, and of course I amassed this big spare parts inventory, for want of a better term, and I put these cars together out of bits and pieces. So let's have a look. Well, up on top of here are 2 rather sad looking bangers, and they're in frightfully bad condition. Let's pull them down and have a look. They're in appalling condition. This has its original speed controller. Both of them seem to be missing. Well, both of them have sport-tuned motors. I don't know, what is that, a sport-tuned motor? I can't remember. But they're based on Thundershot. This one, and the suspension's just knackered. I don't know what the story of those shockers are. There's no play in them, and they're both missing their four-wheel drive or their tail shaft. Goodness, where to begin? I guess the first thing is to start pulling stuff off. Well, I guess the plan of attack with these, pardon the pun, that's a Fitaba, Fitaba? I don't know how to say it. I've got an ACOMS one inside. Is just to blindly blow these apart. There's no receiver there. They're just a blasted mess. And I guess the foundation of anything like this is going to be whether or not we have the frames are alright. You know what I mean? So they've been absolutely smashed to bits, these things. So let's just pull stuff off and see what happens. That's what all that yellow stuff is. Hang on a second, bear with me for a moment. Right. Seen better days. These are clearly the wrong wheels, but I clearly don't care. And it's just a case of being very vigilant, and they're not even usable. And there'll be a little pin in there. We're going to take that out. It's got ball bearings in it. That's good. I think I made that on a mill. Anyway, there's probably spiders in here too. Who knows? We've got these dog bone drive shafts, and behind it they're all ball raced. Look at that. I didn't even know that. Little O-ring in there. How do you get those out? You just push them. Two ball races. That's kind of nice. The frame on this one might have been replaced. They just break so easily. And you can see where those lower control arms, they're bent, they go white, they discolour. How many bolts hold the front end in? Only two. But I'm not holding my breath for any great results with these things. I'm tipping they're absolutely knackered. Alright. I made that on a mill. It's a plastic part that always breaks, and yeah, they always break, and so I made a replacement for it. That shocker will need to be redone. Let's have a look in here. These are cool, they're actually oil shocks, and you take it off and you fill there's different types of pistons you can get. How do you pull these apart? I can't, oh yeah, you just unscrew that, I see. You take the spring off and then you can undo the bottom. How do you do it? I can't remember how you do this. Hang on a minute, let's have a look. and you can change that piston for, you know, larger or smaller holes. It depends on what you want. There's the O-ring there. So, you know, they're good. You can have different lubricants or different viscosity in there. You know, it's up to you how you want to do it. Let's have a look at these. Let's just take everything apart, eh? Let's just blow this thing to bits. And get into it and really find out. A lot of these parts crack, they get so fatigued, but this stuff doesn't look too bad. We're not going to know until we really really clean it up and have a good hard look at it, because as I said, these things are pretty disposable in terms of they break so easily. And then undo that guy, and that whole thing might come off. I cannot remember how I did this, and I think I just sort of knocked them together very quickly as a sort of a means to an end. There we go. How are they held in? I can't remember how I did this. I made that thing. Once I've got a couple of spaces there. Oops. It's a bit out of shape. I might have spares though. I really can't remember what I've got and what I don't have. Right, this guy, it could well have ball races in it. I just don't remember. From memory, the front gearbox normally breaks at the front where the bumper support is. Oh, that's got a ball bearing in it too. And another one. And it's got grease and it's clean. That's in very good condition. That looks mad. That's really good. Yeah, it's all ball raced and everything. It's as clean as a whistle inside. It's really good, actually. I really had no idea what was in here. Right. I guess we'll pop this battery out. It's missing a screw anyway. What's this? 7.2 volt NiCad. I knew that, but that's ancient. Don't think that's going to be much good, but you never know. Let's have a look at taking this other stuff out. How do you get it out? Some of them even had 4 AA batteries to power the receiver. Damn. And of course, as I said before, for a laugh, we can actually replate that. Which would be really stupid, but also quite funny. Oops. Does that lift out? Yes, it does. But there's more side cutter action, and we've got to be careful I don't cut the wires. Not that this stuff's irreplaceable, but it's just not something you want to do, eh? Right, we've got a power switch, a servo, and this mechanical speed controller, which is resurrectable. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, let's take this other servo out. And we've still got instructions around for these things, I think, too. And we'll just unhook this whole back end off. We haven't got the stands for the body on here. Now this looks like it's all sort of mocked up out of crap. Well, it is, but I don't know why or what I did. I cannot remember for the life of me how this is all sort of assembled. But suffice to say, it's literally cobbled together. Now that doesn't look too bad. Naturally I'm going to have to clean it. But that's the only casualty there. And I reckon I can do something about that. It's not perfect, but it's a weakness in the design anyway, because it's only held on with 4 small screws. And now we're down to 3, which means this whole side is just hanging on to that, which is kind of bad. So I would be inclined to glue something on there and just paint it black to hide the fact that it's dodgy, and I did it. I looked at the Tamiya Legends guy, Englishman, and he got one. He got a Thundershot, and his was a bit of a mess from memory. Hang on, I'm going to have to take this off. And he also knows a hell of a lot more than I do. But he, his was cracked everywhere. What size is that? And so he was, and he got one of those new ones too, which is kind of based on a Thundershot. Thundershots were re-released. They're the same sort of thing as, what size is that? As Thunder Dragons, it's far too big. And there's another one too. I'm not up with my Tamiya speak, I really don't know, you know, what parts were in what car. But I know there were 3 or so that were very similar to Thundershot. That's still too friggin' big. So that's nice. I kind of get a kick out of doing this. You know what I mean? It's kind of good, clean fun. That's bent. Look at that. That's been backed into something very fast, and that would have been yours truly. I am a rubbish driver. I used to prefer to tinker with them and build them up, and I was trying to teach the kids to use them. And Charlie's the cleverest kid I've got with things like skateboards, those boards that had 2 parallel wheels. I can't remember, wave boards, I think, and you wobble your ankles and you propel yourself that way. Charlie had that down pat in a minute. Rightio, this rear shock mount just has 1 screw holding it in. Some of the engineering on these could have been better to ensure longer or better longevity, if you know what I mean. They're not bad. They're really not bad. But these days, because they're so old, particularly original kit, plastic does have a way of getting brittle. And that's going to be a recipe for broken stuff the moment you take it out. Particularly if you tap into a wall or something like that. And all this stuff looks just magic. It really does. It looks great. Let's take the little sport tuned off and see what happens. We're not going to wait that long, are we? I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. That hasn't even got wear on it. There's my rag. Huh. That's so cool. I'll put that in its own tub, I think. I just don't fancy filling the gearbox up with a whole lot of debris, even though it's just a silly little thing, I suppose, but I kind of like it. So let's get the loose off with this toothbrush. I always keep them in the garage for the cars, for the full-size cars. Rightio. Let's start having a look in here, eh? Got another one full of balls. I'm really happy with that. They normally have a white nylon sort of sleeve, like a bush, which isn't really conducive to low friction, but not when you look at it next to a ball bearing. Let's have a look and take those out. Yep. That's fresh as bugger, isn't it? That is so cool. You probably re-lubricate it a bit. That one's not quite as spiffy as the other one, but it doesn't matter. I know about it. Right, so that concludes that one. There are a few parts I need. So with that being said, let's look at this bloke. God, how knackered, eh? Look at the tyres. So perished. I've made, oh look, I made another one of those for there. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to fiddle and fart around with this. Anyway, I'm going to pull it apart and I shall report back. Right, this one's pretty knackered. Hasn't got the right screws holding it in. The front end's walking everywhere because the frame is broken in the same place there. But the gearbox might be as well because the whole thing's moving. So, it's a bit homemade there. I didn't do that. That wasn't my doing at all. I might have done that. Oh, I could have done that. Correction, I might have done that. But look at the angle of the shocks. They're actually on the wrong trajectory. This one's under so much duress. The angle's all wrong. If you look down along it, there you can see it's sort of coming out in an S shape like that, which is absolutely no good. This one's a sick puppy. I'll continue pulling it apart. Oh, and of course there's the tyres. Yummy. Now these wheels use the original Thundershot type hub, which is good, and these break too, but these ones look alright so far. So those wheels I would be inclined to just repaint and reuse. I think they'd be fine. Right, well I've got these things blown apart, and there are some issues, which we knew there would be. Firstly, the two frames, from what I can see so far, in very good condition, except they're both broken here. Now, old plastic, of course, they're going to be brittle. This isn't a hard thing to brace with a piece of, say, 0.8mm sheet stock. You can just make literally a band to go around there, glue it to the frame, and that'll reinforce and distribute load a bit better, particularly if you have it wider at the bottom and you can sort of brace it along this area here, and then up around there and then down. This side where it's broken is a little bit different because your transfer box is there. So if you look at where it fits in, you've got to negotiate that bevel gear in that casing. So it's something that can be done. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Now these always break. This area here always breaks on these. And I made this one a while ago, although this is 15 years or whatever, whenever I did this. You can see I've used a mill with a blunt bit. They work, and it's not a problem, although its alignment has an 1/8 of an inch play in it, which is never going to be a great thing. By the time I did this, I couldn't be bothered. And so you can see how poor that is. Given that I didn't care, the thing's going to be pranged, it's a piece of crap, da-da-da-da-da. But that's never going to work, at least not properly. Again, you've got mountains of play, more play on this one than you do on the other. I don't know why I left these so long, but there's also a bend in it. And when you look at it, they're shimmied up. They're not flat, you know, in relation to where the suspension runs. And that's why this one would fail. Now, I just don't know why I did it like that. The center line of the hole actually doesn't look too bad. It just doesn't look right. So it needs to be a bit lower. Now the problem with all these things is you can get the spare parts, but it's actually cheaper to buy a new model. And the one I've bought one at Terra Scorcher, and it's all based on the same stuff. Thunder Dragon, Thundershot, all these sorts of things are the same thing. Now they're sort of hopped up, so they include fully ball race gearboxes, or the car's fully ball raced, and not just that, your upper control arms actually have your turnbuckles on them so you can adjust your camber, and they've got full uni joints instead of the, you know, dog bone arrangements and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, to buy all the parts to fix these, if I was to buy 2 new frames, well, they're $30 each. You know, this part on the tree, which is $30. Tires, a pair, are $30. You know, all this sort of stuff. It's actually cheaper to buy a new one. So rather than buying the new stuff, we're going to have to try and make do with what we've got. In some cases, I certainly can't get away with using these again. You know, these are just tearing off, and that's a good one. Check that out. Although one part of me doesn't mind putting this against the wall and just using this as a burnout tire, see if I can generate some smoke. But even the model I bought at $295 is a variation between seller and seller. Most people have got them for $340. Some people are trying to peddle them for $500. There's no actual standard price. You just get on there and find what you can. And it's the same with some of the older models. Some people are trying to peddle older models for $500. There's a couple of Japanese sellers that have got them on for $1,200 for used models. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no actual benchmark, so you do have to do your shopping and be very, very careful how you do it. So what I'm going to do now, this is an interesting piece that I made here, and it did take me a little while to make it. I'm going to retain this piece because I'm happy with it, and it's threaded well and all works well and all this stuff. I'm just going to chuck these in here, just bear with me a minute. And that gearbox is in good nick, so I'm not worried. If I have a spare, I've got to look in the shed to see what's in my parts box, and we've got to also have a look at my little BT's box as well, because I can't remember what's in there. There's a Mini somewhere that I got later on, and I don't know where it is. But of course we're going to revisit the width of these spaces and so forth. But this did take me a while to make. Now you can buy these now. You can buy reinforcements for the original kit. They're around $40. This is just made from an offcut. I always make car parts from offcuts. And a bit of effort went into that. It's not even level, but effort went into it nonetheless. So that's cool. This gear bag is in great nick. There's nothing wrong with it. Screws are good. No complaints. That one, on the other hand, we have issues. And it's been glued together because I retained that bottom part. This gearbox here, this front one, I will get a new case for. It's the one that was broken there, but also these other bits that here there broke off, so I don't think it's worth trying to fix that. It's just not worth it at all. So all the other gearbox parts I'm just putting separately to the others, so I'm not interested in that. It's got all glue residue, it's just knackered. So right, so this is where we're at. I've split one diff because it was the more worn of the two. This one's in perfect condition. I don't see any point in pulling it apart. So I've got all the bevel gears and everything, they all look good. And the shims, there's all sorts of stuff in there. Ball bearings, chassis ones, and of course they're the chassis ones there. What are these ones? Gearbox ones. So they can all sit there, they're not going to get hit with water. So got that. Got a couple of sport tunies in there, so that can go there. I think I'm done with those containers. They can get put away. We've also got all the dirty mangy radio gear, which, you know, manual speed controllers. There's an electronic speed controller, is there? Yeah, there's electronic speed controller there. That's one of those Tamiya ones, which don't have an awful lot of, they can't put up with ultra high performance motors. Doesn't matter. So, and we've also got all this stuff. Now, a couple of things aren't going back into the car. This is all the plastic stuff needs to be washed, yeah? And I'll go into that in a moment. These things aren't going back in. So, those shockers are rubbish. They're crap. There's no, what do you call it? Travel in them. And they're rusty. I'm not interested. So they're not going back in. Interestingly, on the Sport Tunes, we've got one that's got virtually no wear and one that has more wear. So I think I've got new sprockets in the thing. That can go. I will use that again, that milled part that I made up. That's alright to use. That's all the hardware that holds two Thundershots together. And we'll use these wheels. I'll repaint them. I think I said that before. And, you know, these are the gold ones. Someone's actually got a set of these advertised in better nick than that for $500. I mean, really? They're meant to be quite rare. I just think it's stupid asking huge amounts of money for rubbish. So, you know, we'll wash those. I'm going to paint them because the plating's pretty knackered on them, so that's all good. These are worn. I might get a couple of those. I don't know. We'll just see where the mood takes us. Rather nice. So they're not going on. That's not going on. These wheels aren't going back. If I wanted to, when I test them, I'll use these to go up and down the drive. Obviously, you're not going to use the new ones because they're kind of display queens. That's probably about it. Right, well, I've been watching a few things. What was really interesting is all of the gold plating just washed off these, and there wasn't even any what do you call it, residue in the water. It just completely washed it off. So I don't know if it was the warm water or the sugar save, but it wasn't a strong concentration at all. Anyway, look, we've got all these bits and pieces all cleaned up. Some of these got wear in them. If you look at that, that's a bit flogged out. Most of them are okay. They're all pretty good. Shocks are the only thing I can put together at the moment. I've just got to sort of work out exactly what I need and, you know, the best way to repair these things. Where is it? Up the front there. So it's all there. Well, not all of it. Some of it's in the garage. So we'll just go through with all of this and slowly put it together. The good thing about these is they've got a lovely finish on them, and I don't need to paint them. Just maybe a bit of wet sanding going down through some grits to get the edge nice and smooth where it's been gutter rashed. These are the things I didn't expect to be knackered. Well, the front gearbox I sort of knew about. I'm just trying to find... They're all cracked. Actually, all the gearboxes are cracked in here. Whoops. In that area there. Dremel, Araldite, done. That rear shock mount's knackered too. It's got a big sort of crack. Where is it? On that side, you can see there. It sort of goes through like that. So I need a gearbox case. Rear suspension mount, and also this sort of suspension arm off the front. I wonder why there was liquid nails on it. That's also knackered as well. Right, well, these gearbox cases are cracked, and they're all cracked in exactly the same spot. I don't know if you can see here, in there. What I've done is I've run a Dremel through all of the cracks. So I haven't gone right down to the base of it in here. Let's see if I can see a bit better. My eyesight's pretty crummy. I've only gone about halfway down. I've got masking tape at the bottom, and I'm using an epoxy called Araldite, and I've only got a tiny bit left. And normally I like to mix this on a laminate, not on a piece of crap cardboard. And the other good thing about this stuff is it's mega sandable. Now I did want to see if when you pop the screws in, that's a rusty one, if it actually opens them up, and it doesn't. I mean, it probably does a tiny bit, but it doesn't seem to be enough to cause any issue. Right, there is the bag. And there's a body there as well. So I might get that down, I think. Yeah, that's it. What's that? Oh, that's a Terra Scorcher on the bag. This is from Blackpool. The contents of the beanies bag. This one here on the right is the original Thundershot I had that I restored. I had to paint the wheels because the original finish was all knackered on it. New tyres. I put a new tub on, and it's got all its ACOMs, radio gear from when it was new, and the original motor. It had a sport tunes in it for a long time, but yeah, that one. New bumper and all that sort of business. This one I picked up for $60 or $50 or something, and put a new body on it, and did the same thing. It was knackered, but now it sort of looks just probably a little bit more presentable. It's got the monoshock, which the Thundershot originally had. It looks a bit tidy around there, but as we said, you can redo those to make them look a bit better. And there's, of course, small washers with clips that hold those on. The antenna comes through there. The original body for this guy is this thing, which looks munted. It looks knackered, but that's the one I bought all the way back in the 80s. I did manage to get a new cover for it, which is, in this bag. And I thought to myself, well, I never bothered putting it on, and I've never unwrapped it for that matter, so I'm going to do it now. And the thing that crossed my mind is at my work, we have a vacuum former. And so what I thought I could probably do, I don't know if I can or not, it might actually make for a very interesting video. Here we go. That's the way you buy the things. And it's pre-cut in areas, but if you tape over all these, I don't know what's wrong with filling it with plaster of Paris. Up to there. Maybe putting it in sand to keep it rigid, but it is quite rigid anyway. And then you've got a sort of a buck. And we've got a vacuum former at work. If I can find this stuff, which shouldn't be too difficult to find, I don't see why I can't pump out a few of them. Given that I've got this good master. So I don't know where the Mini is, I can't find it, but I did find the box that it came in. A couple of bits in it which are quite interesting, which I didn't even know I had. There's the box, and I've got this quick charger, and some mini bits I think. It's also got that, a full front and rear diff set. You got all the bevel gears and all that sort of stuff in there. A new tub, I didn't even know I had it. There's rubbish in here, steering bits, there's battery bits. I've only got 3 of those, which I've just dropped. And I had a knackered one of these, so I've got another one of those too. I wouldn't mind another one of those wheel adapters. There's an old battery, and if you want to get funny about plating, you can just send that off and swap it over. Just basically crap in here, but some new gears and like pinion gears, that sort of thing. That might be better than the one that's in there. Don't know, gotta have a look. Sway bars I never bothered putting on, that sort of stuff. That's a drive shaft, or what do you call it? Front hubs, swivel hubs, and drive shaft bits. What's that for? The gear, the diffs, hardware, and also even those little pins for the wheel adapters. Tie rod end bits in there, all sorts of stuff. I didn't even know I had it. That business I wouldn't bother putting him in, but everyone does. What else is here? They don't look like a Thundershot to me. They're probably just mini bits. There's another one. But yeah, I didn't even know I had that stuff, so that's a bonus. That full tree. Has that got anything that's got steering bits on it? They're the sway bar bracket things there. That's the speed controller. Rear shock mount I needed. What's this one for? Is that the front? That's the front shock mount for the, oh yeah, I can use that too. It's still nice and pliable. I did end up having to use that aluminium part I made in there because part of the gearbox was damaged and one of the wheels was hanging off. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy your classic, whether it be one of these or a real one. And I'll see you soon. do you reckon? She haven't. Jesus. Move. Move, cat. Move. Move. Come on. I think it.